is not the enemy, it's a signal. Learning to read that signal and respond rather than react is one of the highest forms of emotional mastery. Let me say something honest about anger. I felt it. Not just mild irritation, genuine burning anger at circumstances that seemed profoundly unfair, at people who behaved with what I thought was carelessness or deliberate cruelty, at myself for decisions that cost me more than they should have. Anger is a real, powerful human emotion, and I think it gets mishandled more than almost any other. On one end, people are taught to suppress it, pretend it isn't there, put on a pleasant face regardless of what they're feeling inside. That's not healthy, and it doesn't work. Suppressed anger doesn't disappear, it accumulates. And accumulated anger eventually expresses itself in ways that are far more destructive than the original emotion would have been if handled appropriately. On the other end, people discharge anger without restraint. They say whatever they feel. They act on impulse. They justify it as honesty or authenticity. But there is nothing authentic about poor impulse control. There is nothing honest about hurting people because you didn't take the moment to think before you spoke. What I want to offer you today is a third way. The first step is understanding what anger actually is. Anger is a signal. It is your emotional system communicating at elevated volume that something is wrong, that a value has been violated, that an expectation hasn't been met, that something you care about is under threat. In that sense, anger carries information. The mistake is not feeling anger. The mistake is treating the emotion as permission to act without reflection. You've seen it. The person who says the terrible thing in the meeting because they were angry. The email sent in fury that burned a professional relationship. The reaction that made a manageable situation unmanageable. In each case, the anger might have been completely justified. The situation might have genuinely warranted a response. But the reaction, the unfiltered, immediate expression of the emotion, was catastrophic. The goal is not to eliminate anger. The goal is to become the kind of person who responds to anger rather than reacts from it. The space between. Viktor Frankl, the great psychiatrist who survived the concentration camps, wrote something that has stayed with me for decades. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is everything. In the moment of anger, the space between what provoked you and what you do next is tiny. Maybe half a second, maybe less. The work of emotional mastery is to widen that space, not to fill it with suppression, to fill it with awareness. I notice I'm angry. I notice what it feels like. I notice what I want to do right now. And I'm choosing to pause before I do anything. That pause, that conscious choice to delay reaction, is where emotional intelligence lives. I want to be very specific about what uncontrolled anger costs, because I think people often underestimate the price. It costs you relationships. One outburst, poorly handled, can permanently alter the trust someone extends to you. People remember. They protect themselves from what they've been hurt by before. It costs you credibility. The person who consistently reacts emotionally loses the respect of others, regardless of how right their position may be. Because if people can't trust your emotional stability, they can't fully trust your judgment. It costs you health. Chronic anger raises cortisol. Elevated cortisol over time is associated with cardiovascular disease, impaired immune function, sleep disruption. This is not metaphor. Anger has a physiological cost. It costs you clarity. When you're in the grip of anger, you cannot think clearly. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that produces nuanced, long-term thinking, is effectively offline. You're operating on fight or flight response, which means you're making decisions with impaired judgment. Nothing important should be decided from anger. Practical tools for the moment. Let me give you some specific tools. The first is physical. When you feel anger rising, heart rate increasing, jaw tightening, the impulse to act, breathe, not one breath, 6 slow breaths. Specifically, the physiological response to slow, controlled breathing directly counteracts the stress response. This isn't pop psychology, it's biology. The second is temporal. Refuse to respond to anything important while angry. I need to step away for a few minutes before I respond to this. That sentence has saved careers, relationships, and business deals. The third is interrogative. Ask the anger, what is this telling me? If you can get curious about your anger even briefly, you move from being controlled by it to learning from it. Because your anger is almost always pointing at something real, a violation of trust, an unfair situation, something that genuinely needs to change. Those signals are worth hearing, just not worth acting on blindly. When anger is appropriate, I want to make something clear. Not all anger is inappropriate. There is such a thing as righteous anger. Anger at injustice, anger at cruelty, anger at circumstances that genuinely should not be accepted. This kind of anger, channeled through reflection and directed into constructive action, has historically been the engine of significant positive change in the world. The difference is this: appropriate anger says something needs to change, and I'm going to work constructively toward that change. Inappropriate anger says I'm in pain, and I'm going to discharge that pain regardless of consequence. One is purposeful. One is just suffering, redistributed. The person on the other side, one final thought. When you're responding to anger from others, when someone else is reacting poorly toward you, the most powerful thing you can do is remain calm. Not as a power move, not to demonstrate superiority. Your stillness creates space for them to return to their better selves. And that, the calm, steady, thoughtful response to provocation, is one of the most respected qualities a human being can possess. Close anger is coming. It will come for all of us, in small forms and large. The question is not whether you'll feel it. The question is what you'll do with it. Read it, learn from it, breathe through it, respond from your best self, not your most reactive one. Because the person who masters their emotional response to the world's provocations has mastered something that talent and intelligence alone cannot provide. That mastery is available to you. Starting with the next time you feel the heat rising, pause, breathe, choose,